They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching? Can you hear them as they march into eternity? There will never be a greater love. There just couldn't be a greater sacrifice. There just couldn't be.
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching? The ones who fought and gave their all?
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching? Can you hear them as they march into eternity? There will never be a greater love. There just couldn't be a greater sacrifice. There just couldn't be.
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching? They're marching once again across our great land.
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching? Can you hear them as they march into eternity? There will never be a greater love. There just couldn't be a greater sacrifice. There just couldn't be.
Can you hear Australia's heroes marching?
This is the little-known tale of Australia's feathered heroes, a corps of pigeons that saved countless lives during World War II, with some birds even being awarded medals for gallantry. On a Wing and a Prayer by John Pigott. Every Anzac Day they proudly march, the pigeon fanciers who went to war. Their numbers are smaller now, but they always raise a smile and a cheer from the crowds lining the street. Yet probably only those who served alongside them would be aware of how many soldiers owe their lives to the birds these men bred, trained and nurtured in the tropics of wartime Papua and New Guinea. Patrols surrounded by the enemy crews in sinking ships, engineers stranded by mudslides, medical units desperately short of blood, all have reason to thank the men and the birds of the Australian Corps of Signals Pigeon Service, who 60 years ago in December 1942 arrived in Port Moresby as the Japanese beat a bloody retreat along the Kokoda Track. Keith Wrightson was among the first to arrive. Now living in Sydney, the 80-year-old is still racing birds and is regarded as one of the sport's greats. He was serving with the engineers when he was switched to the Pigeon Service, which was started after jungle warfare laid bare the limitations of modern communications. In New Guinea and the islands, the rugged terrain posed special problems. Not only was there a greater chance of lines being cut, but the portable wireless taken on patrols were heavy and could fail in extreme humidity. A pair of pigeons could be taken into rough conditions, needing little more than a cane carrier and food. Then there was the fear of intercepted messages. But, as Wrightson says, you can't jam a bird. The enemy might shoot at it, but in doing so it reveals its position. Sending messages by pigeon saved on precious airtime as war correspondents sending long dispatches from the front came to appreciate and remove the need for decoding. But perhaps most valuable of all, the radio had yet to be invented that could transmit a hastily sketched map showing enemy positions. Other times they carried sketches showing reefs that could be used by landing craft, carrying men to the beachhead. They would know just where they were going to run into trouble. Even the brass took some convincing. The remarkable pigeon man who instigated the service, Bert Cornish, now 92 and living on the North Shore, Sydney, where he became Mayor of Ku-ring-gai, wrote that probably one of the most difficult things to overcome was the prejudice within the army itself, or as Wrightson says, they thought they were going back to the Ark. Cornish had to find experienced men. His superiors wanted to take the easy option and recruit troops whose only contact with pigeons may well have been feeding them in the park. But Cornish knew this would be disastrous and fought hard to obtain a body of dedicated men such as Wrightson, who knew what they were doing. A call then went out to the owners around Australia, who responded by donating 13,500 birds. In 1942 alone, lofts fixed and mobile were built, food supplies ensured. Grain wasn't grown in either Papua or New Guinea, so everything had to be shipped from Australia. Birds trained. But after arriving in Port Moresby, it became clear that the mainland-bred birds had trouble acclimatising to the tropics. A breeding program was therefore begun. It didn't take long for service personnel to be convinced of the birds' worth to troops in desperate situations. Sometimes pigeons were all that stood between them and disaster. Soon the pigeons were very much in demand, says Wrightson. The crew of some army supply boats refused to go to sea without them. The first of 2 Dickin Medals, the Animals VC, was awarded to an Australian bird, whose fight to Mandang saved the crew and valuable cargo of a boat that was foundering during the tropical storm. In driving rain, the bird had covered 64 kilometres in 50 minutes. By the war's end, it had been on 23 missions. The other medal went to pigeon attached to American forces on Manus Island after a group of about 200 men were pinned down by Japanese in April 1944. Suffering casualties and with gunfire raining down, they managed to release a pigeon carrying a plea for help. The bird arrived back at base 48 kilometres and 47 minutes later. Aircraft were sent to clear the area. The troops were saved. Another time, a box containing a pair of birds was parachuted into the mountains, so a surrounded patrol could detail its position. Birds brought relief to army engineers stranded by landslides while building a jeep track deep into the Owen Stanley Range. The Australian War Memorial says of the service, the pigeons of these lofts were called upon to operate under conditions which probably no other army pigeons had to endure. At times the birds had to rise 2,000 feet in a distance of 3 miles, with torrential rain or mist a distinct possibility. Rarely was a message not delivered. Wrightson still thrills at the sight of a pigeon fluttering to earth, its mission completed, but this time medals, not lives, are at stake. For him, it has been a lifelong passion, one that started at the age of 15, when he inherited his stepbrother's pigeons after they died in separate car accidents. He has been racing under their name Dive Brothers ever since, his father filling in for him during the war years. It's an intriguing game, and he says once you've been bitten by the bug, it never leaves you. For all their courage and the contribution they made, the pigeons of war did not live to race in peacetime. Strict quarantine laws meant all the birds that operated in New Guinea and the islands were not able to be brought into Australia. They had to be put down. Wrightson says sadly there was probably no other choice. There was no one to whom they could give the birds because there weren't the grain crops to feed them. And it would have been cruel to leave them there, starving and terrorised by hawks. Wrightson says a friend took half a dozen with him, but they were whisked away and destroyed as soon as they reached Australia. Sent to taxidermists, 2 finished up as exhibits at the Australian War Memorial. There, out of public view, they can still be found, a pair of small birds, each with a medal bearing an inscription for gallantry. Dickin Medal, the Victoria Cross for Animals. The Dickin Medal, a large bronze medallion, bears the words for gallantry and we also serve, all within a laurel wreath. The ribbon is striped green, dark brown and pale blue representing water, earth and air to symbolise the naval, military, civil, defence and air forces. The medal was instituted in 1943 by Mrs Maria Dickin, founder of the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals in England. It was awarded to any animal displaying conspicuous gallantry and devotion to duty associated with or under the control of any branch of the armed forces or civil defence units during World War II and its aftermath. At least 2 Australian carrier pigeons attached to the Australian Army have received the Dickin Medal. Blue Bar Cock, number 139, DD 43, T Detachment, 10 Pigeon Section, Type B, attached to Detachment 55, Portcraft Company, Madang, 12th of July 1945. Awarded the Dickin Medal for gallantry, carrying a message through a severe tropical storm, thereby bringing help to an army boat with a vital cargo in danger of foundering. Blue Checker Cock, number 879 DD43, Q-Loft, number 5 of 1 Australian Pigeon Section, attached to the US Forces, Manus Island, Admiralty Islands, 5th of April 1944, awarded the Dickin Medal for gallantry, carrying a message through heavy fire, thereby bringing relief to a patrol surrounded and attacked by the enemy without other means of communication.
We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. I came from the dream time, from the dusty red soil plains. I am the ancient heart, the keeper of the flame. I stood on the rocky shore, I watched the tall ships come. For 40,000 years I'd been the first Australian. I came upon the prison ship, bowed down by iron chains. I cleared the land, endured the lash, I waited for the rain. I'm a settler, I'm a farmer's wife, on a dry and barren run. I convicted a free man, became Australian. I'm the daughter of a digger who sought the mark